Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Welsh. We thank you so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We have a lot of great stuff to get into. We are back today on a Tuesday. The president of Turkey, President Erdogan, says the Saudis planned Jamal Khashoggi's killing and they want some answers about it. We're going to take a look at the news coverage by Fox and we're going to debunk the news coverage by Fox of this oncoming migrant caravan. Now, a new poll finds Republicans support Medicare for all. Most Republicans support Medicare for all. The American life expectancy will rank 64th globally by 2040. New data shows another sign that we are all screwed. Here today, we got a great show. Thank you so much for listening to us as we are back today. Really appreciate it. And we got a lot of stuff to get to. So President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey laid out on Tuesday the Saudi planning what he called the premeditated murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the country's consulate in Istanbul and demanded that the Saudi suspects face justice in Turkey, the New York Times reports. So after saying he would reveal the naked truth about Khashoggi's death, Erdogan, in his first extended remarks on the case, sketched out the chronology of a broad operation and offered some new details. The team of Saudi officials that arrived in stages in Istanbul to carry out the killing of included generals, he said, and the Saudis conducted reconnaissance in rural areas where investigators have been searching for Mr. Khashoggi's remains. It was clear that a savage murder did not happen at the top of the dime, but was a planned affair. And, I mean, it'd be very interesting to see, and something tells me to be honest, I really am, and this may sound a little bit crazy, but something tells me I'm more inclined to believe believe Turkey than the Saudis here, because it just seems like this happened in their background. They know more, they know about this stuff. They know what happens in their spot, and I don't think they'd have any real reason to make this up. It's possible that they embellish it. It's possible that I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I do get the sense that they know what they're talking about here, and they have the right idea on this front. So, so the team of Saudi officials, they arrived in stages, they planned it out, and apparently it'd be interesting very much to see if Erdogan thinks that the Crown Prince knew about it. He definitely challenged that account that the journalist was accidentally killed in a melee inside the consulate. The speech made clear that Erdogan had no intention of dropping a case that it created an international fear. So pretty much what he wants to do is, we had to go away on the show because I was sick again for pretty much since this past Tuesday. It's been a week since we've done this show. I talked about Khashoggi on that show. I talked about Khashoggi on the show before that. Talked about it on the show before that. And I could have talked about it on all hypothetical shows I could have done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, over the weekend, Monday to Tuesday, as my first story in the book. So, that's probably, and that's what the prince wants. That's not what the prince wants. It's what Erdogan wants. And he's getting it because it's a very big deal. So it's trust really what happened if it is happened. And what I really don't get is, and it really is kind of a dilemma that we see this happening here, is that why in the world why in the world is there no way, it feels like, for us to get a hold of this tape? We should totally be able to get to this, and we should totally be able to figure this out. But what I don't get is, why in the world isn't our government doing more to figure this out? Don't they want to put us to rest? Because I know Trump seems to not really want to care about this thing, but why in the world does anyone else not want to? I just don't get it. We know that a lot of people in Congress, a lot of people in the government are pretty outraged or are very much disturbed by this killing. Although it may not be in the White House, people like Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, even they're pretty disturbed by this. Why in the world would they not want to? Why in the world would they not want to come to the bottom of this? It just does not make any sense. And pretty much the moral of the story at this point is, and it has been for a long time, get the tape from Turkey, verify Turkey's account, and if so, then we talk about punishment. That's our next step, and I think there's a lot of places to go in punishments. So much to Mr. Erdogan's much anticipated address to the weekly gathering of his party in the parliament chamber in Ankara came after more than 2 weeks of carefully orchestrated leaks to the news media by Turkey that implicated the highest levels of Saudi government, notably the Crown Prince, in the death of Khashoggi. So, yeah, Saudi Arabia said that 18 officials were under investigation in the killing, but Erdogan said he would call King Salman and asked the case to be adjudicated in Istanbul, not Riyadh, or anywhere else in Saudi Arabia. So, it looks like the Saudi government said at first that Khashoggi left the consulate, and then, of course, obviously, the ever-evolving stories leading to the fact that he died in a fistfight, which, like, I mean, if you look at the guy, if you look at his face, if you look at his figure, if you look at his, he kind of has, like, a kindly, he's kind of like I mean, I don't want to be, like, offensive to him at death, but he's kind of like a doughboy. It does not seem like he would get involved in any kind of this fistfight stuff that Saudi Arabia has planned. Like, he's not in fighting physical conditions. He's not the guy who's going to feel confident that they're picking a fight with a group of, like, 15 highly trained Saudi man. So it just does not make a lot of sense whatsoever that he would actually think about doing that. So, yeah. And it's very interesting that, it certainly seems clear, like, this is the thing that they really have to get to the bottom of. And what they have to get to the bottom of is it's pretty much just saying what happened here. And I think the way to do that, the way the U.S. gets to the bottom of this, and the way that, like, pretty much the rest of the Western world gets to the bottom of this is through Turkey, validating Turkey's story. And I think that's pretty much what they need to do at this point. So the question is, will they do that? And the answer is, to this point, it's very much an open question. Thank you so much for listening to Newsflash today, and we do have a lot of stuff to continue to get into. Also today we were talking about what is going on our southern border. It's getting pretty crazy. There are hordes of savage, illegal aliens charging at our border, desperate to overrun us and kill us all. No. But that's what you would hear on Fox News if you listen to it frequently. Fox News, in its infinite capacity to sow fear and misinformation, is pretty much what this news channel was made to do, is to do that kind of stuff. With multiple guests and host on Monday, floating the possibility the Migrant Caravan is sheltering ISIS fighters. And yeah, we know so much more about that. It's like they're getting back into, like, pre-Obama levels. Like when Obama left office and Trump came in, their roles kind of shift, not from, like, mongering fear to protecting their president, but now they're back to mongering fear, because they're reminding us they have not lost their step, even with Roger Ailes gone, even with, like, top executives and top officials. Like, they know how to hype things up. So they're floating the possible maybe theory. They could be ISIS fighters. There's just multiple people here. And apparently the context for their theory is, and by the way, we are going to be playing clips, so just brace your ears, okay? The possible context is that on October 11th, Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales spoke at a conference for prosperity and security in Central America, a DC-based conference that involved leaders of several Central American countries and officials from the U.S. Morales said that his administration has captured and deported over 100 individuals linked to terrorist issues and ISIS. Per Prensa Libre, a major Guatemalan newspaper translated from Spanish, according to the president, his administration has captured close to 100 people with completely linked to terrorist issues with ISIS, and that not only have we arrested them within our territory, but they have been deported to their countries of origin. So yeah, close to 100 people. So that could be that's the translation from Guatemala to from what the president said, Jimmy Morales, what the president of Guatemala said. This obviously is a pretty large admission, But Morales didn't give a timeline for when the 100 arrests happened. That could have been a cumulative figure for all ISIS deportations since the group gained prominence in 2014. Like, it could be a very large number. We should definitely get more facts on it, and it does not seem like it should be, again, the whole migrant caravan. Like, called the whole migrant caravan is pretty ridiculous. Like, several Fox News commentators, they took this detail and absolutely ran with it, trying with no specific link to the migrant caravan currently traveling the borders. Like, the fact is that they went through, like, these arrests, by the way, and it may be unclear, like, they did not take place on the caravan. They had nothing to do with the caravan. They just happened at one point or another in Guatemala. Like, that's the link. And Fox News commentators, they pretty much tried to relate it to the caravan, which is a little bit ridiculous. If you don't know, Caravan is just pretty much a bunch of people walking through the border, and I'm sure you've heard about it. It's been going on for a while. It's been pretty big in the news, but yeah, they're just traveling the U.S. border. It's about 7,000 of them, all pretty much walking down the street, and it's pretty crazy. And the latest migrant caravan, which originated in Honduras, not Guatemala, consists of several thousand people traveling together in a loose group towards the border. It's pretty loose. They're kind of just walking, sometimes on carts, sometimes on cars, where many will try to apply for asylum in the U.S., citing gang and political violence in their home countries. Current estimates put the number of migrants somewhere at around 3,000 to 5,000. It's a little bit bigger than 7,000, but although Fox was actually running with an estimate around 7,000, along with this detail of harboring terrorists. So it's 3,000 to 5,000. I said that story before because I've heard people talking about 7,000, but apparently it's a little less. It's 3,000 to 5,000 here, according to actually reliable sources, but we do hear 7,000. I think the number there is from the BBC. They're estimating that there, so that makes sense. So Pete Hegseth is here talking about this morning on Fox.
Because the laws are, as the president calls them, dumb. They don't make sense. They don't protect our sovereignty. That's where you have to go back to Congress and say, it's about time we actually do something about it. A wall is part of saying you don't get to come into our country unless you prove that you're a refugee. So go to a port of entry, claim asylum. You'll get your day in court. We'll determine whether it's
That's
valid
what they're
or not.
doing.
But you got the president of Guatemala
That's
saying
literally
to a
what they're
local
doing.
newspaper down there just last week, they caught over 100 ISIS fighters in Guatemala. Trying to could have used this caravan or other processes. He talked to their local newspaper. We don't know. It hasn't been verified. But even one poison pill is too many in a caravan like that.
Yeah, and you notice what he added there in the last, you notice what he added there, like last little bit. He was like, well, I mean, they could be trying to use the ISIS. They could be trying to get on the caravan. Like, you never know. It could be the caravan they're trying to utilize for their own personal gain. Like, they could be trying to use, or some of the process, they could be trying to possibly use the caravan. Like, no, they're not trying to use the caravan at all. So, like, that doesn't make any sense. They're not trying to use the caravan. So, another host, again, they responded, are we sure that's true? Are we sure that's true? Hegseth brushed that off because he was on a conspiracy fear-mongering reign here. He said in the newspaper saying, we don't know, it hasn't been verified, but even one ISIS poison pill is too many in a caravan. Even one. So, Secretary of Strategic Intelligence, and this is again from the same newspaper, Mario Duarte in Guatemala, Prensa Libre, translated from Spanish here, indicated that the details of these captures are confidential information, but Duarte told Prensa Libre that, as an example, in 2016, several citizens of Syrian origin were detained with false documents, for which they were prosecuted and subject to criminal proceedings. These individuals were deported in accordance to our laws. That's pretty much apparently what these would actually look like. And we just don't really know how much. Like, we know that they're there. We do not know anything that any of these supposed ISIS fighters caught are trying to be linked to the caravan. So that's lie one. Lie two is that there's 7,000 when the highest estimates by reliable sources are 5,000. And Fox News followed Hegseth's allegations with not one but two guests who also mentioned ISIS in conjunction with the migrant caravan. BuzzFeed News is put together kind of clips of some of them.